Check, check.
Good morning, good morning. Comes vNext, good morning, Denver. Hello, hello, everybody. We are here together. I am so excited to be with you. My name is Caruana Gatimu. I work in Microsoft Teams Engineering. I run our customer advocacy group and all of our global community activity. And this is what community is actually about. I have on real pants and actual shoes. I'm not an avatar. We're here together to learn, to explore, and to grow, and to learn about Microsoft technology. But most importantly, to have fun and really connect with each other. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this. We really, really appreciate this community that we have in tech. And we're so grateful for people who organize events like this. Let's give a round of applause to the organizers of this event, please. Josh and Adam and all the folks who and everyone who participates in this, they really give so much of themselves to events like this to make sure that you have a place to learn about technology, to grow, to meet, and they have a lot of fun doing it. And they weathered the pandemic. They've weathered a lot of challenges in these uncertain times, and I, for one, am very grateful. I come from the community, and that's actually how I got my job at Microsoft, was volunteering in the community. So not only is it great, but it's an awesome way to expand your career and meet people who can help you and become, as I have found, lifelong friends. So I'm really happy to be here today. There's so many great things going on. You can ask me any question you want about Microsoft products. I will be roaming the halls for the rest of the day and going to the Women in Teams event here as well. So if you have a question, I invite you to stump the expert. And you will do that. I know you will. And if I don't know the answer, I will find one for you. So I'm just hope that you all are planning some excellent sessions and really also take advantage of the time in between the sessions. Introduce yourself to somebody you haven't met. One of the things that can be a little nerve-wracking at these events, especially if it's your first, is that you don't know people and we all seem like we know each other. But we know each other because we introduced ourselves at some point and we're friendly. So go ahead, reach your hand out, introduce yourself to anybody here, including me, and just make sure that you are making those connections while you're here. So at this point, I think I want to bring Josh up. Yes, here we go. We have some great stuff to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caruana. And Caruana's going to hang out with me for a minute. We have a award, as you see on the screen. This is the first annual Comms vNext Volunteer of the Year Award. And we are going to present this to someone. It was kind of hard to decide where this was going to go. Because speaking to the community thing that Caruana was just talking about, we have had so many people, both that have come in as speakers that have volunteered to help, that have been helping us since year number 1. This is year number 5, by the way. Yeah. So what an awesome milestone. But totally not possible without so many awesome volunteers that have sacrificed tons of time. So this particular volunteer has been with us for a few years helping out in various ways. going to kind of give it away a little bit. He has done 2 20-something hour road trips in the last couple years. He had to do them with Pat Richard as well, so that's, that's saying something. But he has poured himself into a ton of other activities. Also, make sure you check out the podcast booth, even if you're not doing the podcast booth, because he has, of his own self, set all that up. Some really great podcasts are scheduled during the event that you're probably familiar with in the community. So, without further ado, Eric Marcy, please come up. And again, this was a hard one. We've had so many awesome volunteers, but yeah, Eric has nearly killed himself over this. So this is a bit of an inside joke, but yeah. So if you've got a phone and you kind of want to see a little bit of what the inside joke is about, but in celebration of this award, Eric is giving away free team support services. So go ahead, check that out. Thank you for being such a community player. Yeah. But any words, Eric?
Just want to thank everybody. A couple years ago, honestly, did not think I would even be here, and thankful for everybody in the community, and thankful for Pat, Adam, Josh, and Jonathan for everything they do, and it's a surprise. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Caruana, thanks for your help with that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We have a few other things that we want to, a few other awards as well that we're going to kind of put out there, and we wanted to really recognize the people that have gone out in the social media realms to spread the word this year. It's been a struggle over the last few years to try to build up that engagement out there online, and this year we were quite humbled by not just attendees and speakers, sponsors. People stepped up and spread the word on LinkedIn, on Twitter. It was probably to the point where y'all were getting sick of seeing it at some point, and that was just humbling to see. There were a few key people, however, per metrics, that bubbled up to the top, whose efforts ended up spreading the word, getting more registrations in, and so we want to recognize a couple of them really quickly. Thank you all. I cannot, a lot of the social part of it, help means a ton to me personally, so thank you. We've had our 4 platinum sponsors have each contributed an item that we will have our winners of these come back after the keynote, and we'll hash all that out in the background. But from the Logitech LG side, they are contributing a Logitech dock, of the Logi dock, so that will be one of the prizes. Neat has a Neat frame that they will be contributing to the story. Landis has a very generous gift card that they'll be giving out. And then HP Poly has the Voyager Free 60 that they will be giving out as well. So again, once we announce the names, I want you to come up here so we can acknowledge you, but then follow up with us after the session. So first up on that list is going to be Tracy. Tracy, thank you. Please come on up. Yep, you got it. You get to come be embarrassed. The analytics speak for themselves. You spread the word, and it showed up on the back end, and thank you for that. But we had Tracy. Next up, Sharon Weaver. Not a surprise. So awesome. I'm calling people that are like all the way at the back, so they got to make this long trip up. But when we had Mark Vale. Mr. Vale. Now, I don't know how much of you know the Just Attend app that we use. This is fashioned by him, and I assure you there was no rigging of the numbers here at all for that. So that's, and then Satish also rounds out. So again, lots of beyond this. There was lots of spreading the word, and we can't thank you enough for that. But per the metrics, you all helped get it out there. You helped bring people to the conference, and we cannot thank you enough. So one more round of applause for everyone. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. And that is the end of my presentation. But a couple items that I want to call out before I hand it over to Adam Ball to introduce our keynote speaker today. We have our attendee party tonight. I say tonight loosely. In the past, if you've been here, we've had it a little later. We're going from 4 to 6 p.m. tonight. That'll be here in the expo area. We will have food. There will be drinks of whatever kind you prefer. So please be here for that. It's going to be a good time, great networking time. And then right after the keynote is a great opportunity. We have a break in the schedule, great opportunity to get on the floor, talk to all the amazing sponsors that help make this possible, and check out what they're bringing to the Microsoft Teams world. So visit them then, visit them throughout the next couple days. Make sure you're there tonight. And I think that's about all the housekeeping items I have. I did have a couple people ask where the sessions are located. There will be sessions in this room after the keynote once we get going, but there are 2 other rooms kind of off to the left of the escalators as you're walking toward the escalators. Those are the other rooms where the other sessions are going to be held. We're running 3 concurrent sessions during a bunch of the slots. So keep an eye on the agenda. And without any further noise from me, Adam, you want to come up and introduce our keynote?
Thank you, Josh. All right. This is one of those things that I get to do, and it's a huge pleasure to do this because you all know that this takes a lot of effort. So first off, I really want to just give one more thanks to all the volunteers, whether it was the folks that are doing check-in at the doors, etc. We had some great folks like Dylan and folks who actually coordinated this for the past 3 or 4 months, coordinating all of the volunteers. So if we can just give that up for the volunteers really quickly one more time. Thank you. So as we were coming up with, and this is always fun because when you plan a conference, and these are things that I never knew I would have a life skill in, is you have to start thinking about what do you want to talk about almost a year in advance. We wrapped up Comms vNext 2022 back in August, and we literally went right back into it in September of trying to figure out what will Comms vNext 2023 look like. And what was interesting as we went through the fall and we started talking about it, there were these trends that just kind of kept coming up. And as we sat down and started to look at them, we started to see a lot of these things. Like Microsoft reintroduced the "Do More with Less" slogan at Ignite. And then we started to see a lot of the turmoil in the tech industry that has happened over the past few months. And there's a lot of great things that have been done, but there's also a lot of things where it's probably really hard for some people to be here or to have even attended just because of layoffs and things like that. And we've been sitting here looking at this, and we started seeing some of this stuff back in November. And as we started talking about that, we started talking about what is that theme, we kept coming up with that whole birth of the "Do More with Less" and what does productivity mean. And so when we started talking to our keynote speaker, he and I had some really great conversations around that topic of what are some of these trends and things that we've seen in the past. And as we were talking through it, it just kind of got me excited for what we can bring here and some of these words that we can have, because what we do, if you're in the productivity space, what you do for your organization matters. It matters a huge amount, and what you're doing helps your organization and helps you and helps all your coworkers be better with that. And it's interesting as we started looking around, especially here at Comms vNext, as we started looking around at the impact we can make, whether it's in our organizations and in our community. It was a big deal to us with that. So with all of this, what I want to do is bring up Ted Colton, who is our keynote speaker, to speak on why productivity matters and the lessons that we can learn from it. And so Ted's an industry stalwart. I can't go on with, we don't have enough time, and I have a microphone and I could talk for a long time. I don't have enough time to go through all of the areas that you've had impacts in, and I know you're going to touch on some of the things that you've seen in your career, and I'm excited for that. But this is going to be a great time. So welcome to the stage, Ted Colton.
Okay, a little housekeeping just to get volume set while we're going here. And I'm using a MacBook Air, and so that means I'm going to be plugging in part of the Hydra, which is going to be USB-C, and then I'm going to be changing my DisplayPort settings. So just a moment here. But while I'm doing that, although my wife says I really can't multitask, I'm going to attempt to do that. What an honor and privilege it is to be here. This, as many of you may or may not know, as I go into the presentation and the materials that I presented for us today, I've spoken at many, many conferences. I've been on stage launching Windows 2003 to 30,000 people. this singular event is daunting because this is our industry. This is our ecosystem. And as Caruana said, the people in this room move your constituency, whether you're an OEM provider, or whether you're a systems integrator, or whether you're an implementer, or whether you're a community organizer around collaboration and the journey that Microsoft has been in collaboration for over 20 years now. It's an exciting time. So, and I guess my wife is proven correct because I can't multitask. So I should have put that up there. So I'm going to attempt to spend a few minutes talking a little bit about the past, and I'm going to talk about the case for resiliency. So hopefully we can drive this. Hang on just one moment. There we go. And so a little bit about me. I kind of put down collaboration, real-time collaboration, UC, video, IoT. Those are all things I've cared about in my journey in this community for the last 20 years. So you can read this as we're going through, and I'll just tick off a couple of the highlights. Out of university, Sonoma State University in Northern California. If you like wine, you're going to be in the area. Happy to take you there. I started with this little company called IBM. And some of the key terms and things that were going on there were things like token ring, and we actually sold Novell NetWare, and Btrieve was the database. And for some of you in the room, this feels like, oh my gosh, this is like Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. And in some ways it's meant to be, because I really think the past informs where we're going. So if you'll just indulge me a little bit about this. And the other thing that was really kind of cool was WinNT was a new thing. And Windows 3.0 was the predominant operating system. We didn't even have Windows 3.1 yet, which meant, and I just want you to ponder this for a moment, that meant that in order to run Windows and an application on Windows, you had to have a TCP IP stack. And there were independent software vendors like WRKey, Walker Richard Quinn, and others that made TCP IP stacks. And so some of you who might be newer on your journey in the tech industry, that's mind-boggling. It's like, are you kidding me? Well, this application doesn't run right because you're on TCP IP stack. And it was Windows 3.1 that said, enough of that. We're going to just embed TCP IP in the operating system. And so what an advancement they made. From there, IBM, I got a chance to go spin out of IBM and sell ERP. This was Enterprise Resource Planning at a time when it was called Material Requirements Planning 1, Material Requirements Planning 2, Client Server Accounting from the likes of PeopleSoft and others, and Platinum Software was one of those companies that competed. Went to work and actually moved to Denver to work at FileNet, which is knowledge management, and Workflow, which was later acquired by IBM. Significant opportunity there. But then my journey began at Microsoft in 2002, and I'll come back to that. And I spent almost 9 years from 2002 to early 2010 in what was then known as the Real-Time Collaboration Group. And so that's where my journey began. After that, I went over to Polycom. We'll talk a little bit about that journey. And then I wound up with this little company called Crestron. I'm still not an AV guy, as you can tell. We'll come back to that. I've been very, very fortunate to work with a lot of great people along the way and along that journey, earn a very prestigious award with my colleagues for Microsoft Partner of the Year, Microsoft Partner of the Year finalist as a hardware supplier, which is normally an honor given to ISVs or systems integrators, so very proud of that. I've served on the Microsoft Partner Advisory Council 3 separate times over multiple tours of duty, and there's people in the room that served with me on that in both IoT as well as the unified communications space. And my wife is named Tanya. She's the real boss. And we raised 4 sons together. And a little bit about me, a week ago, my son showed up at my house to announce, I'm going to be a grandfather. Let's see if we get that content back. And I purposely chose this. I think I took this in 2017 at the Microsoft conference and LinkedIn booth. I think I have a little bit more gray hair now, but who knows? Maybe I should update my profile. But I want to take us back, and I want to go back as Stephen Hawking might, or others, and I don't pretend that I'm any learned scholar, but I wanted to share some of the things that I got to experience that might help remind you in certain cases, and in some cases inform you of how we got to where we are and where we might go in the future. So, does anybody know what this reference is? The Intergalactic Computer Network, a phrase uttered in 1962. Okay, without further delay, in 1962, the ARPANET was a vision, and the vision was, we need a way to connect people, and this is the way they thought of it. This is the Intergalactic Computer Network. And this was from a gentleman by the name of Dr. J.C.R. Lidlicker, 1968. There has to be some way of facilitating communication among people without bringing them together in one place. I'm going to let that resonate for a moment. Sounds like the same thing we're doing today. It's not new. As a matter of fact, the first audio-visual video system was actually what date? Anybody have an idea? Which century? 1900s? 1870. 1870, we don't have to go back to details, but the first incorporation of visual and audio communication together was combined in 1870. So we've been at this for quite some time, and we've learned a lot of things along the way. I wanted to share this because this is the beginning of my journey and really the seminal moment in Microsoft's journey for real-time collaboration. And I know you're reading it, and it's good. I want you to read it. But this was the day that Microsoft announced in January of 2003 their intention to acquire WebEx. No, not WebEx, Placeware. And what I can safely say today, because I'm pretty sure the statute of limitations and my NDA is covered, there was a decision. Should Microsoft buy WebEx or should it buy Placeware? And if you think about the evolution of that, where we are today, maybe should have bought WebEx and got Eric on board. I don't know, it's just something to think. But this was part of Jeff Rake's vision. Jeff Rakes then was the leader of the Information Worker Business Unit. Tremendous individual. If you've ever had the chance to meet him, what a pleasure and what an honor, one of the greatest leaders I've ever had the chance to work with. And he shared a vision with Wall Street that said, you know, this thing, Office, it's about $10 billion annually. We want to try in the next 5 years to 7 years to get it to be $20 billion. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to do things like the real-time collaboration efforts, and we're going to acquire Placeware. Now, I think many of you recognize I brought some props along, and this is just part of my journey. Many of you have seen this before. This is a backpack that was given down at the Link conference, so it's LCS, OCS, Link, Skype, Teams from the Skype users group. So I'll come back to that in a moment. But this was the genesis. This is when I joined the team. And this was the actual close date. And this is when I got to go work with Placeware, then a Microsoft subsidiary. Some really great names up here. Some really great people I got to work with, including Anup Gupta. For some of you know, we used to call him Snoop Gupta. And Anup was a really great guy. He was actually Bill G's personal technology assistant. And so you can imagine the workload that he had. And then this was his prize. You worked hard, now you get to go run this new business unit that's supposed to help generate $10 billion additional revenue. Think about that today. If Microsoft said, hey, we're going to double the total amount of revenue that we're driving around Teams just today, what that would be. So really, really base. But some great people. Gurdeep Singh Paul became the next leader of that organization. And you also noticed Zig Serafin, who, along with Gurdeep, took on. So this is where the journey really began, okay? Does anybody know what the predominant remote content sharing tool in January or April 2023 was at the time? 2003, excuse me. PC Anywhere? How about NetMeeting? Anybody use NetMeeting in the past? Yes. Yeah, so NetMeeting, it was this peer-to-peer ability to share content. And what was the number one remote communication device on the planet at that time? The Polycom sound station, otherwise known as the Spider phone. And we're going to get back into that in just a moment. So here's some significant devices of my past, maybe yours too. Around this time, it turns out that Ross Cutler and some others in Microsoft Research were working on something called Ring Cam. And I don't mean ring as in doorbell camera, but on the left-hand side, that was the Microsoft prototype for what was then to become Microsoft Roundtable. And it worked pretty good. It was pretty amazing technology. I actually held in my hands the first 5 Microsoft Roundtables. They came from Foxconn, our then manufacturer of the device. And they came over in big cardboard. They were packed really well. We started shipping them around the globe to showcase people, 5 units. And along the way, we started to get reports. And the reports were the boxes are falling apart. So we made Pelican cases. And then we had the Pelican cases made the dimensions, and then we shipped Pelican cases to catch up with the Roundtables. I think we broke 3 of them. The stocks just ripped off. So it got down to 2 of these units. But this was one of the first. And then, of course, a little jumping ahead a little bit forward is the first Microsoft telephone. There were multiple versions of this, but this is around 2007 with the launch of OCS and the first telephony device. And trust me, before I joined, I'm not sure why that's timing out. It's not timing out here on me. But companies like Polycom and Avaya and others were like, oh my God, Microsoft's making a phone. What are we going to do? But I also had in my bag this Polycom Communicator 100, which was like the most brilliant tool. I actually still have one laying around, but really cool stuff. So some early stuff. I left Microsoft in 2010, as I mentioned, and in 2010, later that year, Polycom and Microsoft announced a strategic alliance. And that strategic alliance was 7 separate contractual commitments between the 2 companies, one of which was licensing Roundtable technology. One of them was to develop the first V-Box, the video box. One was called M-Box, I'll come back to in a moment. There was another one that you may not have known about, but I think statute of limitations is going to protect me here. Little did you know that Polycom actually created Microsoft's Lynx media stack. Microsoft Lync media stack. So you didn't know it, but it was granted in the wild, and it was created there. So some really cool stuff. But one of the commitments was we needed to launch this, the Polycom CX7000. Notice I say link-based room system. And there's someone in the room who was early on in this as well. Takeshi, are you here? Or did he? There's Takeshi. Takeshi with Polycom. Probably longer at Polycom than I was by far, but this is it. We demonstrated, and it was fantastic. And I could tell you that I remember the day that Bill Vertine was the project leader on this. I guess I'll just have to keep touching it to keep it alive here. The first time that Bill himself saw this, I hesitate to share it directly, but I will. He said, "This is fantastic. What does it cost?" And we said, "Well, it's about $15,000. And he said, "That's too expensive." So from this, the creation of this is, by the way, this is running Windows. This is running what was then known as the Lync Cal. So we took you weren't allowed to, we got permission to take the Lync Cal embedded on this, and you had full functionality. Polycom Eagle Eye, Takeshi, I believe is correct. Eagle Eye right there on there, remote, wonderful. But this actually caused a funny result. 4 months later, Bill Vertine and Anton Krantz showed up at Polycom's headquarters. And we were then in Andy Miller's conference room. And you're going to laugh when you hear about this story because it took us 30 minutes to start the meeting. And the reason it took us 30 minutes to start the meeting is similar to what I'm going through up here. We plugged into the Polycom HDX 9000 unit that was set up in the room, 2-screen, beautiful, with sound structure in the ceiling, awesome. The laptop just wouldn't connect. So we tried that for 15 minutes. Then we went to Mike Curry's office, which was his conference room, similar HDX 9000, all fantastic. He's sure this is gonna work. Never worked. We ended up huddling around the laptop. And that's when Bill and Anton said, you know, we just think that this world is too complicated, and the old myth of it takes 14 minutes, 16 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, started. We need one touch join. We need content to be applied. It actually started from those meetings and the first link room systems. Of course, two favorites of mine. This is the Polycom CX5100, which was the follow-on to the Roundtable device that Polycom had sold from Microsoft. Anybody notice something key missing from this unit in today's world, the base of it? What's missing? Cables, yes, that's okay, but how about something that does this? Keyboard, right? Something to use it. I remember showing this to Gurdeep. We brought it to his conference room, and the very first thing he said is, "Where's the touchpad?" Okay, now it's time to take a shot at Microsoft. They told us it shouldn't have a touchpad. And we argued and argued and argued and argued. And for those OEMs in the room, you're still arguing with Microsoft about it should be this, it should be this, it should be this. No, the specification says this. No, the specification, the specification, the specification. So while I take a little pot shot, I think that effort, that constant beat of driving to commonality has resulted in just amazing products in the room, far beyond what I'm showing today and far beyond what I'm about to show. But they make mistakes, and they'd be the first to admit it, right? And so, yeah. And here's another funny thing. This cute little orange vent there, the industrial designers at Polycom, some good friends of mine, Takeshi might remember this, they won an industrial design award for this base unit. And the base unit is actually supposed to, it's got little dog ears, it's supposed to be installed upside down underneath the table. And that's actually an air vent. And so it's supposed to use convection and draw on the air as it moves out and dissipate it. Problem is, what's the number one way this box is installed across the globe? Exactly as it sits. Nobody ever did it. So just a couple of interesting thoughts around that as we go forward. Of course, we made vast improvements. One of the biggest improvements was the cap no longer detached. You didn't lose the cap, so it was there, and you press it and move forward. And then my favorite phone was a phone that was designed at Microsoft. It's called the Oak phone, or the Holy phone for some of you. At Polycom, we actually bought this phone from Microsoft and shipped it. Still works pretty good today if you plug it in, so kind of a cool device. And then, of course, I just threw this slide up. I don't know, but I think at one point we had 70 products that were Teams, or at the time Link or Skype for Business, and it's just phone after phone after phone, vVnext series, all kinds of things, SIP-based, so on and so on and so on. So I thought I'd show you a picture of Front Row. Whoops. HP Halo Room. Oh, actually, I didn't mix up my slides. Part of the reason I wanted to show this is, look at the design of this. Screens at the eye level, cameras, pictures. This is from 2007. And in 2007, HP launched Halo. And it was meant to surpass the limitations of video conferencing. Remember, video conferencing has been around for a while. PictureTel has been around for a long time, right? All sorts of capabilities. But this is kind of my first teaser. And with luck here, I'm going to share an interview for the people who actually saw this for the first time. But I do want to just give a little bit of nod to the fact that concepts, old and new, are constantly refreshed. So maybe that's my first stopping point to say, as you look forward, as we're facing this impending crisis, as we face the crisis in 2008, as we face the crisis of the dot-com bubble, there's always going to be room for new innovation. But don't always look too forward to the future. The past can sometimes inform you. So I'm not going to spend time going through Front Row. It's a beautiful solution, beautiful design using the Pexip camera, which has just, not Pexip, excuse me, the Jabra camera, which has its origins in the round table. You know, and we thought about those things. We thought about, well, what if you put a round table up in front against the wall? Well, there's the cameras in the back and so forth. So great innovation, great iterations, but these concepts come back. So that's probably my first thing is, I think the concepts of telepresence are coming back more than ever. Now, I'm not going to reveal that I have any specific knowledge or any of those sorts of things, but where we are today, with all of the wonderful products that are displayed in the room, I'm going to share with you that I personally believe we're exactly where we were in 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 until HP announced this product. So if you'll indulge me just a moment, let me go over. I've got this queued up. Let's see if I can do this. All right. Got to just find my screen here and where I can drag it. Oh, hang on. It's always a question, is it left? Is it right? Okay, well, I'm going to just do this. I'll just give you the comments here. I'm going to start off with just the announcement here. Let's see if we go full screen. Yeah. Not coming across.
Lots of stimuli, so we'll probably take a few days to try to simulate it all, but it's been...
This is feedback all the HP Halo.
So congratulations, by the way, on a very successful conference.
Well, for those HP folks who were with us this week, they'll understand this already, but we're very proud to have HP as a sponsor of FIRE, which just happened this year. HP also helped us with our first Silicon Valley dinner. And we've always had high regard for this company. We consider it to be not only the...
Okay, let me give you the setting. This studio that I just showed on the screen was created with DreamWorks Animation. And the reason DreamWorks Animation and HP got together is because at the time, standards-based H.323 ISDN prior to that video wasn't good enough. They wanted to have a more immersive experience. They wanted to develop new movies like Shrek and others, and they wanted to collaborate between Tokyo, Palo Alto, and Burbank. And so this is the genesis of that. And so they're actually doing this, and I apologize, but I just want to scroll forward. I want to hear the reactions of 4 people, and I'll tell you who they are here, their reactions to this after they've seen this. So hang on.
System. Not even the one would-be competitor that I've seen.
What do you guys have at HSBC? Yeah.
Oh, we just have the standard video conferencing.
Okay, hang on. Get right there.
Other video conferencing.
Can do that. Hit www.hp.com/halo and send in your information, or they can call me directly. That room is usually
This is HSBC
There's
security.
absolutely no comparison with other video conferencing systems. Not even the one would-be competitor that I've seen.
What do you guys have at HSBC? Yeah.
Oh, we just have the standard video conferencing, and it's.
So what do you think?
Did you hear that? We just have standard video conferencing. And as much as we've moved forward, from programmable logic chips, from Texas Instruments, to x86 implementations, to now Android, and now soon to be ARM, the warning I have for you is don't rest. Don't rest on your laurels. Don't rest on the implementation of the rooms. Utilize the AV industry, make rooms more experienced and so forth. But then also to the industry, don't rest. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, sorry. Make sure that you just don't settle for standard Teams video. It's going to not be adequate, right? So here, let's listen to one more comment here. This one's going to be from NASA.
Who here would use this in their business, and how do you see envisioning? What's your name?
Jay Faulkner, NASA.
NASA?
Jay Faulkner with NASA.
You don't have this at NASA yet?
We have video conference facilities. They're very formal and standoffish. You get nothing like eye contact or virtual presence. And we routinely, you don't always need all 10 field centers and headquarters and the testing facilities. We routinely need 4 to 6. And you want this kind of interaction. I can see how the moment we had one of these, we'd fight over the room. No question we'd fight over the room.
It would be a
Because
hierarchy play.
anytime we have telecons, 24 hours a day, and you're sitting there.
Okay. So anybody, I'll get the slide deck back up here. Anybody know how much these systems cost at the time? 2007, the launch of this. A little higher, 250 was the response. $500,000, $550,000. I think we've done a pretty good job. So that's one thing I'll applaud the room in the industry. But I also want to give you a little perspective. We have wonderful analysts that follow the industry. Frost & Sullivan, Rupam Jain. I'm sure many of you are familiar with her and her work. I got bad news. Just this last fall, she announced the state of video conferencing and the actual deployment of rooms. Anybody know what the number was? The percentage of rooms deployed with video conferencing? Less than 10%, actually 7%. Now, during my time, from 2003 to then, that number largely has not moved. What has changed, and what the pandemic did, is we've made standards-based video, Teams video, Zoom video, probably not supposed to mention Zoom at the Teams event, but we've all gotten better at being on camera, okay? So I know there's a commercial real estate crisis, and I know that at your companies or the companies you serve, everybody is worried about what should we do. And we've all seen examples recently in which budgets have been struck. There are people in the room that are designing the most beautiful rooms of the future, and budgets have been struck. Don't lose the faith. If you're implementing Teams rooms, if you're implementing the infrastructure to support Teams rooms, it's going to come back. People want to come to the office. People want better experiences. And people are going to pay for those experiences. How do I know? History tells me so. Right? We've been through this before. The PictureTel solutions, the Polycom solutions of the day were replaced. The HP Halo system came into market at $550,000. We've done a good job as an industry democratizing that, getting it down in terms of the price and capability. So we know that there's the opportunity. All right. Catch up here. Okay. This was a concept that quickly came after. The two-seat, this is the modern equivalent of the huddle room. Anybody have a guess what this was? Closer to the price tag you mentioned? $250,000 for two people to sit in the room and to have this, right? Now, there's a reason why this worked. There's a thing called the HVEN network, which is dedicated, lockdown, capability in the network. Anybody even know what the resolution was on these systems? They're actually wonderful, by the way. I sat in many of them. Less than 720p. It was 360. And why did it work? Why did we accept the resolution at that level? Because the network was bulletproof, right? So don't always think that frames per second. I don't know about you, but 4K content, maybe it's my gray hair, kind of gets a little jarring at times. When I watch Ted Lasso, I always look at the coach. He always looks like he's a video character. It's weird, it's jarring. But the point is, hey, we've come a long way, and we'll continue to drive that way. Okay. Does anybody remember this event? Enterprise Connect. You do? Were you there that day? That's Peter Leave, the then CEO of Polycom, and Zig Serafin on stage. And they announced two things that day. The first was Surface Hub. The second was this little guy. And this is available for you if you want to come up and see it. This is one of the products that I wished I'd had the opportunity to make. This is a product that we announced with Microsoft when I was at Polycom. For those you can't see up close, it says Polycom and it says Skype for Business. This is a Nook. And I'm just going to tell a little story, painful story. I had over $1.4 million of inventory of this ready to ship. And then I got the call. And the call was, we're going to use Surface Pro 4. Scrap that. 5 cents per share. 5 cents EPS in the quarter to write down the inventory. So what's my message? My message is sometimes innovation is hard. Sometimes partnering with a number of companies, Microsoft included, isn't always a bed of roses. So for you that are in the OEM community and you're working through things and you're working against standards, it's okay. Things are going to happen. In parallel, it's important to share that same year, revenues associated with all those Microsoft products, over $500 million, right? And many of you in the room helped deploy those solutions and made them happen. Okay. Let's see, we get this guy back. There we go. So, pretty interesting. And again, I'll leave this on stage if somebody wants to look at it. But yeah, my $1.4 million i3 Intel NUC branded Skype for Business, which was a pretty big feat at the time. I'll leave that there. By the way, I brought along some other gadgets. Link launch. This is the Link, my Link souvenir pin. It's got a little thing here. This is from New York City, the launch. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this little goodie showed up here at this very conference for the very first time. Does anybody remember this guy? Yeah. So that was the superhero, and I think it was 2019, Adam, if I'm not mistaken, right? So yeah, you keep these things. And oh, by the way, this one was a good one too, Sonus, Skype for Business for Dummies. Fortunately, it didn't take off for all of you integrators in the room. People would have been able to do that. So, remember I went back and I said the link room system. Truth be told, at Polycom, we didn't want to build link room system. We just built the CX7000. It was awesome. Bill loved it. But no, our friends at Crestron, my future employer, decided we'll build it. And then, so for those of you who remember, Crestron RL1, Room Link 1 was the official name for it. Don't ask why, I wasn't there. Purpose-built PC, Crestron panel, Logitech SVC camera. Got into a little hot water with Logitech on that one. They actually put a little wrap around it. And then my other mean feat was, hey, I don't want to build it, but I'll OEM it. So the Polycom CX8000 was actually the Crestron unit. I think most of you knew that, and that's okay. But 2015 was that year to remember. In addition to this little guy and the troubles, on the far right, Crestron and Logitech threw in and decided, well, we will build the Surface Pro 4 enclosure. And anybody ever install one of those guys? Yes, Adam, some of you, nightmares. But it was also the same year that the Polycom Trio was launched, to much great fanfare with Skype for Business Online. So what a great product that was. And again, contributing just tremendous revenues. But I put this up here, and you could go click this link later when you get the docs. This is also the year that this letter that's referenced here came from a company called Elliott Capital Management. And I'm leaving that as a teaser because you're going to see the details of that letter. That's public domain today. That letter essentially said, we just bought 6% of your stock. We think you're doing a bang-up job, but you're really shitty at what you do, and we want you to merge with Mitel. We don't care which one of you does it, but Mitel and Polycom, come hell or high water, are going to merge. That was the letter. And so that's why I say, what a year to remember. We literally had grown from $10 million in revenue associated with Microsoft and Unified Communications to well over $500 million annually. I guess my power supply here. But I think it's important for this context to just know that things are going to happen in your life. Things are going to happen that are going to be disruptive. You will continue and you'll go. I don't know why it just keeps timing out on me, but heads up for the future speakers. So that'll be an interesting read for you. And ultimately, as you know, Polycom went private. It was acquired by Cirrus Capital, not Elliott Management. And there's some folks in the room who also had similar experiences with Cirrus Capital. And then ultimately, HP acquired Poly just recently. But along the way, on that HP Halo Studio, we actually bought that at Polycom. So it's kind of an interesting round trip to know that HP sold to Polycom HP Halo Immersive Telepresence, and then HP just bought Poly back, Poly/Plantronics. So kind of a little bit of history for you there. I then moved over to Crestron after leaving because, quite frankly, as many of you know, Mitel and Microsoft, and talk about the ecosystem, they did not mix. During my time at Polycom, I had the opportunity to rise in leadership to be the group vice president, responsible for the ecosystem and the strategic alliances. And I can tell you that every single partner across the globe said, Mitel, hell no. And that's why I ultimately left the company and moved on. But then I was asked to join Crestron. And at Crestron, here's just some of the accomplishments. Yes, that's Zoom. I put that up there for a reason. You see, we took Crestron Mercury to Microsoft. The name shall remain nameless. We demoed it, and they said, nope, we're not going to do it. We said, fine, we'll launch it with Zoom at Zoomtopia, the first Zoomtopia. So we did. So the first Crestron appliance-based all-in-one unit built on Android was actually built for Zoom. And then there was acquiescence, and then eventually it came over there. And then who can forget the soundbar? I think Ilya referred to it as the rock star, weighed like 27 pounds. So those are just some of the precursors. Crestron phones, Crestron Flex for Zoom and Microsoft, and then Teams panel. So some really great innovations along the way. So why share this? This is 1930. By the way, this is not meant to offend anybody. This is the PBX. This is the way it was done in 1930, right? And you all know the evolution that went forward. But how do we remain relevant today? And in my final few moments, I want to share with you a little bit about that. Does anybody remember Lotus Notes? Lotus Notes actually is my harbinger of the future. It is my call to action for everybody in this room. Because I believe, once again, productivity, to Adam and our early conversations, Lotus Notes came out. It was around the time of Win95. It was the early 90s, and productivity was everything. Everybody was looking for a way to drive productivity. You were productive, by the way, if you had an x86 PC, fortunate if you had a 286, really doing well if you had a 386, and oh my God, 486, whoo, you were cooking. But you ran Windows. Some people still ran DOS. You had Harvard graphics. There was no PowerPoint. You created presentations like this in Harvard graphics. You used WordPerfect, Shift F7 for print, for those of you who want the shortcut. And you had to go you had dot matrix printers. And oh, by the way, you used this thing called Lotus 123 because Excel hadn't been invented yet. Okay? The point of this is, and I'll come into this in a moment, I want to share some thoughts about this. Lotus Notes and the application framework for Lotus Notes was built on the principles that go all the way back to 1962 and then 1968. And you can go back and look at other references to the mother of all demos. I'm sure you've seen that. It's about collaboration. We build rooms, we build community, we build things on teams for collaboration. But that's just the baseline. The magic, the money, the opportunity, the value for everybody in this room is around collaboration applications, okay? So let's go back and just for a few moments, let's review what it was. And I'm just gonna put this up there. This is David Gerwitz of ZDNet, not mine, but it was enterprise class before enterprise software was cool. Big companies were depending on Notes to transform the way they did business. They never had anything to help collaboration before. Notes was Salesforce before Salesforce. It was Dropbox before Dropbox. It was SharePoint before SharePoint. It was Atlassian before Atlassian. It was Zendesk before Zendesk. It was ServiceNow before ServiceNow. Workday before Workday, and some implementations, even GitHub before GitHub. Why did I choose this? It's not a new concept. And I'm going to land on the final point here where we are today. It had web-like forms before there was web, server apps before there were much in the way of servers, and shared distributed access before things had even been heard of by most IT folk. Plus, it had an intrinsic built-in security level. Notice the mention of ServiceNow. I'll come back to it. And then it was gone. When I worked at Microsoft, across the United States, every general manager in every sales region had a scorecard metric. Find every installation of Lotus Notes. And systematically over time, those accounts were won over. And Lotus Notes was migrated. And by the way, it's still in use today. Did you know it's actually been sold to HCL out of India? You can still buy Lotus Notes. But it got migrated, and it was gone. You know, similar to this event, IBM held events every year at the Dolphin and Swan for almost 20 years. And this was the last one that I attended because I would attend all the events. And this was the year IBM Connect, which was the rename for Lotus Sphere, Lotus Notes, the conference, Domino, and so forth, had posited there's this notion of social collaboration. For God's sakes, what the F is social collaboration, we sat in the room saying. Who's going to use that? We're not going to use social collaboration. Well, they were ahead of their time, but couldn't actually implement it. Anybody know what year that was, roughly? I'll tell you, 2013. Not that far ago, just 10 years ago. So similar sorts of things happening. Okay, so I've kind of buried the lead here a little bit. This was from the founder, Mr. Luddy of ServiceNow. I want you to read that for a second. When I started ServiceNow in 2004, my vision was to build a cloud-based platform that would enable regular people to create meaningful applications throughout work through an enterprise. Seeing the parallel here? Now, many of you know ServiceNow as the ITSM platform, right? Similar battles with Atlassian, Jira, back and forth, but this is in the category of ITSM. But quietly, if you really have that perception of it, it's something entirely different. It's the reason Bill McDermott left SAP and joined ServiceNow. And this is their quote: "There's a remarkable opportunity in enterprise software for refreshing legacy systems, but also in automating business processes never captured before, otherwise known as the custom application market." Here's just some examples of ServiceNow. Pig lifecycle management. This is their slide, not mine, but I just thought that was really cool. Pig lifecycle, okay, we got to track that. Gift card management, PO reconciliation, document workflow, IP address management, game vesting management, insurance claim tracking, and even better, they've got a better marketing slide that they use today. Single system of record for operations, facilities, legal, finance, IT, HR, marketing, sales, and services. Ted, you've got a minute left. Where the hell are you going with this wild prognostications? Before I get to questions, earlier in March, what was announced in March? Co-pilot. Co-pilot. What did Satya talk about at Ignite this past fall? Two things: no code, low code programming. Everybody in this room should be thinking about how Copilot, Power Automate, Power Apps can be combined with Teams to up-level the stack. Standards-based video, standards-based communication, Teams-based communication, Teams-based instant messaging, chat, all those things aren't good enough. If you want to drive the organizations you serve, or the organization you're in, or the industry you serve, you've got to move up the stack. This occurred in the 90s. It's occurring again now. If you're a fan of Microsoft, if you're embedded in an ecosystem, if you aren't exploring Copilot and the announcements that will be made over the next several months, and you're not thinking about how I can alter my practice, whether that practice is internally or that practice is externally, or you're helping support the industry, to think about applications that actually are business applications written in Copilot with AI generative code, utilizing Power Automate and Power Apps, you are going to miss history's repetition of itself. I'm sure people will talk about Copilot. I don't want to stand up here and talk about Copilot. I had slides I could present and do all those sorts. I don't. I just want to remind you, if you think about what we've gone through over the last 45 minutes, video conferencing has been here for a long time. Video conferencing evolved. Experience mattered. That brought about telepresence, Tandberg, HP, Polycom. Then that was too expensive. We democratized it. We moved from TI-based logic chipsets and very expensive bridging architecture to cloud-based. The battle between Cisco and Microsoft is over. Cisco announced Teams rooms. Holy shit. I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime. Right? That doesn't matter. If your practice, if your offering of what you take back out of this conference is simply, by the way, with all due respect, beautiful solutions. Beautiful solutions in the room. Far better than we ever dreamed of. But if you stop there, you're missing the opportunity to grow your value. You're missing the opportunity to take the lessons of the past and apply them to the future. And I do believe we still haven't seen the bottom. We're going to have a commercial real estate collapse. We're going to see more recession. But everybody in this room can latch on and show more productivity, because productivity is in Copilot, in Teams, with Power Automate, Power Apps. I've got maybe just a few moments for questions. I do want to tell you, I no longer work in this industry. I have a new endeavor, which I'm pretty excited about. My company I've joined is called Esper. If you want to ask about it, you can. Esper, in a nutshell, builds commercial-grade Android. So if you kind of connect the dots on that, we're working with the leading companies of the world to do that for device fleets. But I want to leave you with this. It's been my privilege and my honor to work in this industry, represented by this ecosystem of vNext, for over 20 years. I've learned a lot. I've failed miserably. Having to tell your board of directors you just lost 5 cents EPS in the quarter. But I've had successes along the way. And I'm going to be here if I can share anything from my past, if I can help you in any way, if I can clarify questions. It is my honor and privilege to be here with you, to be here at vNext. This conference is near and dear to my heart. I've been going to all the events. It's better than Infocom. It's better than ISE. It's better than Fashion Week. You know what I'm talking about. Every year at Fashion Week, there's no customers, but everybody shows off their shit. It's really cool. This is it. You are the movers and the shakers. Leave this room, have a great conference, but leave this room thinking about productivity beyond just video, beyond just communication. Take it the next level. It's amazing. You could do really cool things with Copilot and Power Automate and Power Apps. And with that, I'm a couple of minutes over, but thank you very much, and I look forward to meeting all of you and talking with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it very, very much. Once again, Ted Colton for you all. Really do appreciate everything that you just had to say. There was so much. I mean, that's like more than half my career of working with all this stuff. So I can date myself based on a lot of what you just put up there, and that's scary.
By the way, one more thing I didn't show. This is the product that we wanted to make at Crestron. And you can come ask me about this. We wanted Mercury in different colors, and this is
cool.
One of those. We had them in gold, we had them in blue, we had them in red, but yeah, a couple of little things.
I think I just ordered a Surface laptop this morning, kind of in that same vein of like, which color do I want? So awesome. So just a couple of housekeeping tips here. So Ted's going to be around here. Honestly, I think I need, with you in the cape, I need to get a picture of you out there, and we could compare it to Lori's from 2019, when those capes came out. Something else you said that I just want to highlight about the LinkedIn picture. We actually do have the LinkedIn photo booth. We call it that, but it's really just our good friend, local photographer, Alyssa, who's out there. She's getting set up right now, so if you need a new headshot, please see her. We're taking care of that, so you can go get a professional headshot done for your LinkedIn, especially if you're a job seeker and just need something a little bit up to date. That would be awesome, so you can go support her. Like I said, we're taking care of that, so you can get that. But this has just been incredible. Hopefully, as we go forward, there's some great sessions. We were as organizers, we were overwhelmed, literally overwhelmed by the number of submissions that we had for the speaking slots that we had available. We had over 150 speaking submissions for 30 slots. And there are some incredible, going back to your comments on Copilot, whether it's Teams Premium, video rooms, how to do it better. There are some great, very intelligent folks who are going to speak and be able to give you words of advice on how you can start to be thinking about how to implement this at your organization to be more productive. Couple last little tidbits as well. We do have stickers out there, so if you want the FNG sticker, we have stickers out there for it. So to support Eric, as well. But yes, please take time. The last thing, we're going to release you. We have a little bit of time between now and the first session. We want to encourage you to go see the sponsors. The sponsors are literally, the sponsors make this happen. I don't know if you all noticed, our ticket prices are so low because of the sponsors. Like, this is not an Ignite. We can't do it like that, but we are able, because of those sponsors, we're able to put this entire thing on, and we're able to do it and keep prices low, so that when you show up, we're really just trying to have you help pay for the food, and the food is amazing. This hotel does an amazing job with the food. So lunch, snacks, all that stuff will be around. We have the coffee cart, but please take some time now and go visit your friendly sponsor. The Platinums are all out in the pre-function area, and everybody else is right out here. So thank you all, and I hope everybody enjoys the conference.
Thanks. Okay. Was it all right? You sure?